With the release of 7.2, there's going to be an increase in demand for food and potions of all varieties. From combat, crafting, and gathering, all jobs have some use for high-end foods, especially when a new Savage tier patch is released. Culinarian and Alchemist are both jobs that you can do without needing any other crafting jobs leveled, making it one of the easiest ways for you to get some gil if you are a more casual crafter. This makes both of these jobs an excellent entry point for anyone looking to get into crafting in Final Fantasy XIV without the need to level all of their jobs or dive into the complexities of multi-job crafting required for making gear. My name is Tenelin, and let's get into it. There's a good amount of work that you can do now while waiting for patch 7.2 to release to make some gil and to continue to do so even after the patch. I'm going to break this video down into sections detailing the various things you can do before and after the patch 7.2 in order to start crafting food and potions to either prepare yourself for the patch or to make some gil selling items on the market. Feel free to skip around as needed using the chapters in the timeline. In order to keep the flow of the video going, I will include any macros I can provide at the end of the video as well as in the comment section instead of interrupting each section to provide them. So first off, what can you do before the patch? I think one of the best things you can do is prepare both Disciple of Land and Disciple of Hand food and potions. There will be no new food that releases in patch 7.2 for crafters and gatherers. This means that all of the existing food that we can craft today is what will be needed and in high demand once the patch releases. Due to not knowing exactly what the stat requirements and difficulty of the new crafted gear items will be, we cannot say for certain which of these foods is going to be the most popular, but I will list them all here for you to view and explain my thoughts on all of them. Just note that anytime I'm talking about food and potions, I am always talking about crafting them in high quality. High quality food and potions always provides additional stats, and it's the only way you should ever craft these items. So let's start off looking at the crafting stat food. We have the original lower item level foods that were released in 7.0, the Ronique steak and the salmon jerky. These ones are the most popular right now as they are commonly used in the current crafting setups, and they are available to craft by default once you hit the level requirements. Neither of them are locked behind a master recipe book. Ronique steak is the more popular of these due to the high amount of CP that it provides, as most of the time the amount of CP that you can bring to a craft significantly helps speed it up and make it easier. CP is usually the harder to come by stat, especially in melds compared to control and craftsmanship, so it's usually the most popular stat for food. Salmon jerky is a bit of a niche food for crafting, but it does provide a significant amount of stats, and it's often used in the more budget-friendly meld setups right now to help increase your stats, especially on the crafts that have lower CP requirements. Moving to the newer, higher tier food, this one was released in 7.1. It is the ceviche. This one does require that you purchase the Master Culinarian Book 11 to craft, which you can buy for 1600 purple scripts at any of the script vendors after you've unlocked the script exchange in Solution 9. I think that this food has a very high chance of being useful once 7.1 releases, as it provides even more CP than the Ronique steak, as well as 150 craftsmanship. This is the highest amount of craftsmanship that we can get for a food right now, which means that if the new recipes in 7.2 do have a higher than predicted difficulty level, these will be in high demand. Overall though, all three of these foods have potential uses as each of them covers a variety of different stats. I am preparing ingredients for all of them and slowly crafting and selling as we get closer to the patch. I plan on having a stock of each of them once the patch releases as well for the increased demand I expect to see. Take a look at the prices on your server and see which you think would be the most beneficial to craft and sell. Gathering food is also not being replaced in 7.2, so preparing those ahead of time is a great idea. We have 3 of the lower item level foods from 7.0, the Torali Pineapple Pons Cake, Nasi Goreng, and Stuffed Peppers. Unfortunately, without knowing exactly the stat requirements we're going to need for the new legendary gatherables in 7.2, it's hard to predict which of these will be best to prepare. Nasi Goreng is popular due to its use in collectible farming. With the right meld setup, eating Nasi Goreng will push you over 1000 GP, which allows you to use the better collectible rotation. This one will probably not be as useful for any of the new items in 7.2, but it's good to note that it will probably see continued use for all of Dawntrail, even as a budget option in the future if something better does come out. Stuffed peppers are the go-to food for the mid-tier meld set right now, as they can help push you to the 900 GP rotation for collectibles, as well as bump up your perception. But it's definitely the biggest budget food available at the moment, and I don't expect to see this one get a lot of use in 7.2. The Torali Pineapple Pond's Cake is used for giving you a good chunk of both gathering and perception, which can be useful if you want to skip a few melds, but I think the highest tier food, the new one that was released in 7.1, is going to see the most use. The Cloudsail Meunier. This recipe is locked behind the Master Culinarian 11 book as well. If the stat requirements of the new Legendary Folklore nodes in 7.2 turn out to be higher than we expect, this will be the most popular food as it has the highest amount of perception and a good amount of gathering. Again, this does require the Cloudsail, the same as the Ceviche for the crafting food, and those foods do typically have a higher price if they are the meta food, just because of the time sink that comes with having a fishing ingredient. It takes a lot longer to catch fish than it does to harvest a node. I'm not entirely certain if we'll need this food, but if we do, I do see it having a very high price. I think this one is a little bit of a gamble. You could potentially prep these ahead of time in hopes that they are needed. The final craft I would focus on in the crafting and gathering category is for alchemists. This is the Cunning Craftsman Tisane. This potion is for crafters and it provides 27 CP, but it only lasts for 15 minutes. This is a highly desired item for all high-end crafting. Now there are other crafting potions that provide craftsmanship or control, but I would primarily focus on just the CP one here, because the other two are usually much more niche, and CP does tend to be the most desired crafting stat. Having a good stock of these for both yourself and for selling off to others would be a very good idea. Another avenue you could take is crafting up some of the existing master recipe combat food that came out in 7.05. Some of the more casual of the hardcore players who don't want to spend an insane amount of money on the newest foods, but still plan on doing the week 1 Savage rating might be looking to buy some of these. I expect to see these foods have a bit of an increase in demand just in the upcoming weeks to the patch, as well as maybe the first week, but I will expect to see them fall off pretty hard once the newest food does become more readily available. I wouldn't overinvest into these too much, and I would mainly only focus on them if you're looking for some additional crafting to keep you busy while waiting for 7.2. If you want some additional information on how to craft these foods, I did make a culinarian only guide on my channel that has all the details and macros to do so. Using that same logic, the grade 2 Gemdraughts are also a great, even potentially more lucrative craft for alchemists. In case you aren't aware how combat potions work, raiders will use them up to 3 times each fight, and the buff they provide only lasts for 30 seconds. That means while people are early into progging the new raids and learning the mechanics, they're going to be chugging these over and over again every single pull and running out fast. A good amount of early raiders will choose to use the older potions because of how many they're going to be using, and the new ones are going to be insanely expensive for the first few weeks. There will also be players that are trying to push for World's First or full clearing in the first week though, who may opt for the newer, better potions, so let's touch on what you can prepare to do ahead of patch 7.2 in order to craft and provide the new food and potions. The first thing you should know is that the new recipes will be locked behind the new master recipe books that will release during the patch. Assuming the price of these is the same as the last one, per book for the crafter that you want to unlock them for. They can be purchased from any of the script exchange vendors once you've unlocked the Solution 9 script vendor. Be sure to stock up on purple scripts before the patch releases so you can get these books ASAP. If you want to play it safe, have 1,800 or even 2,000 scripts for each book just in case they raise the price a bit. It's a very, very slim chance, but it doesn't hurt to have a few extra scripts. For an easy purple script collectible, I do the level 90 culinarian recipe because I can use Trained Eye to instantly get full collectability and follow it up with a few groundworks for a very quick craft. The ingredients are also very easy to get, especially if you have a few retainers handy. Speaking of scripts, you'll want to have a good stock of orange scripts and maybe even some collectibles stored on a retainer, as with the release of 7.2, there will be new ingredients that must be purchased for orange scripts from the script vendor that all of the new high tier combat foods will use. For example, in patch 7.05, the previous Savage patch, we received the Mastery Recipe Book 11, which included food such as the roast chicken. This required the rumpless chicken to craft and can only be obtained for 15 orange crafting scripts at the script vendors. All of the food from the Master Recipe Books will have at least one orange script item that they do require. I am personally stocking up on rarefied tacos de carne asada, and I've just been storing as many as I can in my retainer. For alchemists, you'll want to make sure that your tomestones of heliometries are maxed out. Once the patch releases, these tomestones will be moved down to the uncapped mid-tier level 100 tomestones and will be used to purchase new items from Zircon that will cost 20 tomes each, and each of the new Gemdraughts will use this item in order to craft. You can also stock up on aesthetic tomestones if you're looking to over-prepare, as those will go away, but we will have an option to convert them, usually at a 4:1 ratio, into heliometries. So if you had an extra 2,000 aesthetics, you'll essentially have an extra 500 heliometries once 7.2 releases. It's also a good idea to have a stock of sanctified water, high quality, crafted, as I'm predicting we will need these for the grade 3 Gemdraughts, as they were used in the grade 2s as well. There's also a pretty good chance that each of the botanist ingredients that were used in the grade 2 Gemdraughts will also be used in the grade 3. These essentially act as the essence of the type of stats that they provide. All of these items are usually also used for combat gear, so they will be in high demand. There is a chance that they switch up which items they are using, but I'm pretty confident they're going to stick with these ones. Now don't forget, all master recipes will require elemental clusters. Cooking requires water and fire, and alchemists will require water and lightning. That means to make sure to stock up on twice as much water if you are looking to do both. I would recommend at least a few thousand of each of these, but it really depends on how much you plan on crafting. I did just put out a lazy method for gathering these clusters, and I'll leave that link in the description. I would highly recommend you check that out if you need to stock up before the patch. Finally, the only other ingredient we know for certain we're going to need is Sun-Gilt Aethersands. The newest Gemdraughts, every single piece of the combat food, and every single piece of new combat gear will require one of these to craft. This makes it overall one of the most demanded items we can prepare ahead of time. These can be gathered in a few different ways, but I prefer doing the ethereal reduction on the following timed nodes. If you need more information on how to gather these, I do have a full breakdown video on Aethersands I'll link below. For the rest of the ingredients we'll need, well, predicting these is nearly impossible. I've tried to form some random theories based on items that aren't used or find some patterns in past recipes, but none of them seem to make sense to me. If you know some secret about what ingredients we might need, leave a comment and let the rest of us know. The best you can do though is be ready to collect the items as needed as soon as we have access to the full recipes on patch release. That covers everything that I'm working on ahead of patch 7.2 in regards to my culinarian and alchemist prep. I hope that provides you some useful insight into what you can do. If you want more details about my prep for crafting the new combat gear, be sure to check out this video as well. Don't forget to leave a like if you found this helpful, and subscribe for more updated videos once patch 7.2 does release. Thank you very much for watching, and now, here's some macros.